So yeah, that was 2012, and then
this is where things get good.
Yeah, things get a little dicey here. Yeah, so in 2012, I had marched with Chris Drummer already. The whole chapter that I forgot to explain is I actually was in the Bakersfield College fall drum line. So it was before they had a competitive indoor drum line, and one of the members there was Chris Drummer. That was before he marched drum corps. He was just a talented dude at Bakersfield College. And
just happy to play drums,
Yeah, dude, he's on a different level. But yeah, so I got to meet him and get really good friends with him at Bakersfield College and eventually at BDB. He ended up going to March Blue Devils, and so going into the 2012 season, there was this interesting talk going around that Nick RC wasn't gonna go back to the quad line. So there was this like kind of top secret quad spot opening up, and Chris, being a good friend of mine, he reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, dude, there's a quad spot at BD that no one really knows about, just a few people. It's kind of last minute. It was like maybe a week or so before auditions, and Nick was already kind of handed the center snare role, and it was like, wait, what's happening? The center quad is gonna be the center snare now, and now there's a quad spot? I thought you guys had all bets. Like, what is happening?" So that totally threw me for a loop. But I was like, you know what? I'm down to give it a go. So I went, I auditioned. Luckily, I knew most of the packet because of my years with BDB. I knew most of the exercises already. So I went and had a great audition. But I think they already had someone in mind. That person being Amir Usman, super talented, makes sense. And they're like, "Hey, like, we don't want to like string you along, but X, Y, this is what we thought, and we want to make sure you're still marching." So I was like, okay, cool. So I kind of had to unscramble that like idea of potentially making BD. Yeah, by that time, I did not have a spot at Bluecoats. So going back to Bluecoats as a vet wasn't an option. So again, I found myself marching WGI all season, homeless for DCI. So it was kind of interesting. So funny enough, this is where the story gets super messy, is my good friend Mo, who I happened to meet at Pulse, but happens to be from my hometown, which I didn't know until then. He marched Vanguard under Murray Gussick. That staff went to Academy. He marched Academy because you don't want to do the Rennick thing for his own reasons. And then that staff at Academy ended up going to Blue Knights in 2012. So my good friend Mo was like, "Hey, I don't know where I'm marching either. Like, I've been to 3 different corps now."
Wait, hold on real quick. He went from Vanguard to Academy before Academy was even like a top 12 corps?
Yeah, it was. He did big finals. Yeah, so he marched Vanguard in 2010. That was Murray's last year. And he was just a huge fan of the Murray thing.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, Murray's incredible.
So he without hesitation just followed to the Academy there, and he marched there. And from there, that staff ended up going to Blue Knights, and he's like, "Hey, I think I'm going to go to Blue Knights." But we were both kind of like, we don't know what we're doing this summer. Maybe we're just staying at home being delinquents all summer. Who knows?
I've been there, I've done that.
So eventually we both decided, we're like, "Hey, let's go to the Blue Knights April camp or something." They still had openings. So we went to auditions this was after WGI, and we went to kind of audition for some last few spots they had. And the timing of this couldn't have been weirder, but we arrive in Denver on Friday night, and that same night we get an opportunity that there's 2 spots at the Cadets, a snare spot and a tenor spot.
As you land in Denver.
Yeah, as we're landing in Denver.
Wow, that's interesting right there. It's like the conundrum. What do I do?
Yeah, so it gets super interesting. So we're like, well, I don't know what to do. But given that we hadn't committed to Blue Knights or even know if we were going to get a spot, who knows? We're just like, well, we should still poke around and kind of, make sure we have our options. So we reached out. We got a hold of who we needed to get a hold of, talked to Colin, talked to the admin, kind of like talked some details out, but didn't necessarily have spots. We were just like, "Oh, yeah, these are the positions, blah, blah, blah." I was like, okay, cool. So then, we went on with the weekend. Blue Knights, and we ended up actually just deciding, you know what, let's put our eggs in the Cadets basket. They happened to just win. They were a successful drum corps. There's a lot of great things happening there. Blue Knights were great too, but it was like, let's check out the other option right now.
Now, what month was this?
That was like April. It was like late April. So it was like Dayton happened, and then the weekend after was a Blue Knights camp. So it was like April 20th or something, I don't know, sometime around there. So, but yeah, so we ended up getting a hold of Colin McNutt, and we worked out all the details, and without even auditioning, he's like, yeah, you guys are in, just show up. So wow. I'm like, cool, I guess we're not going to finish this camp. So we ended up just getting a ride to the airport, finding the first flight back home, learning all the Cadets beats, and then like a week later flying to Pennsylvania or something.
Did your parents think you were crazy during all this time doing?
Absolutely. My parents were still very disconnected with the activity.
Oh, I think most parents are. Yeah.
Yeah. To this day, they're a little disconnected, but yeah. So that was a huge like whirlwind. But yeah. So I ended up myself and Mo ended up nabbing some spots at the Cadets. They had a full line. They just came back from a championship show the year before. But we didn't know this at the time, but they were doing a kind of somewhat controversial show when it got announced.
Yeah, I was going to say, you go from...
Hold
on real quick, hold on. I was going to say, you got Angels and Demons, and then you got Christmas.
So, and another thing we didn't know is no one in their drum line came back. So it was like a huge, all rookies. There was one tenor vet and 3 bass vets, and that was it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Full rookie snare line, 4 rookies in the quad line. Like it was, like we didn't know that was the scenario. And we get in, and it was like, what is happening? Not in a bad way. It was like there was just a lot of young, really good talent that was just down to be a part of a high-functioning drum corps. Which in a lot of cases, it just works out. It works out better sometimes. It's just no one has an ego and everyone's just going.
Now, had everybody aged out, or they just didn't want?
I think there was a mix of reasoning. Some people had jobs, some people got interns. Actually, funny enough, the spots that we ended up swooping up on were like one of them, I believe, was an injury, and the other one was like a job related thing. So the spots that we filled were for like really good reasons, you know. And we're just stoked that we filled them. So yeah, we went on. Mo and I kind of just traveled around from the California scene, and we were just the lone California dudes marching in the East Coast. And that was a life-changing decision, to say the least. So
for me as well, down the road. We'll get into that.
This bleeds into this guy later. But
all right, cool. I can't wait to hear this part.
So yeah, so I marched Cadets 2012, walked in not knowing that it's a Christmas show, opened the sheet music, and it was like Carol of the Bells. I was like, what is happening?
That was like, what did I walk into? Yeah.
Yeah, what is happening right now? But yeah, I get there, and to this day, like it was the most welcoming environment I've ever been a part of. Like the work ethic was through the roof. I remember specifically having a phone call with Colin before I even met him. And he was like, hey, like, I know you guys are coming from your other organizations that you've been a part of, but like, this is how we do things. And he just laid it all out. And he's like, we're all going to work hard. Staff's going to work hard. You're going to work hard. You're going to have a great summer. We're going to win. We're going to lose. Doesn't matter. You're going to be a great drumline. And I was like, I'm in. Just kind of like, I'm down.
Oh yeah. That's one thing. That's one thing Cadets have always been known for, is that real hard work ethic, you know?
Yeah. So like in 2012, we went into, high expectations. You know, Cadets just had a great year the year before, but we had so many things dialed up, or so many things against us. We had a full rookie drumline practically. We had a interesting show design, which to this day I actually absolutely love that show. But yeah, like we busted our asses.
It was a hard show.
Yeah, it was a really hard show. It was a really hard show, and I really learned what it means to march a cadet show. So it was like marching 4 to 5s all day, just cranking all day. It was an experience that I would love to do again if I can, my body can take it. But yeah, so we ended up kicking it into high gear. We no matter what our rookie status was as a bunch of members in the drumline, we ended up doing really well. We got second at the average score on finals night. We got like a 3-way tie with Cadets, Vanguard, and Bluecoats. So we were like, dude, this for a bunch of rookies that were counted out on day one. Look at us. So that was a huge like motivation for us. It's like no one's gonna count us out. Like it was just a bunch of dudes just having fun and just working really hard and kind of blindlessly just going. We just went. We just listened to what we were told and we just did it.
How did the drumline finish that year?
Yeah, so we finished second.
Oh wow, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So our average it was a 3-way tie. So yeah, we did really well. The show was really cool.
You guys were winning a lot during the season, though.
Yeah,
right?
we actually won. We won San Antonio or Atlanta. We won a couple big regionals, and it was just like we're in it. Like I remember being on the bus and someone was just looking at their phone or whatever, or looking at scores, and it's like, hey, I think we won. And it's like, wait, what? We won? And it was just like the bus just went wild, and it was a blast of a time. But yeah. The cadet way was definitely an interesting experience. Like, no matter if we won or lost, the next morning was the same thing. We woke up, had breakfast, met on the 50 first thing in the morning. Don't be late. You're on the 50. You have a meeting. Here we go, and you just showed up and you did your job. And it was a very different experience than to what I had experienced the years before. Blue Devils B and at Bluecoats, very different organizations,
different culture.
Oh, I bet. You know, I'm pretty sure each one of them has their own distinct culture, and it's cool that you get to pick something up from each of them along the way, and then work that into. I'm sure you've worked that into how you teach now.
Absolutely, it's quite diverse. I've had the privilege of being a part of some really great organizations with a lot of great history, so I've been able to kind of soak that in and kind of create whatever I can or make the most out of all that. So yeah.
After Cadets, you go and you go to RCC for the next 2 winners.
No, I had one more season at Pulse.
Oh, one more at Pulse. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So that was actually an interesting winter as well. Coming out of Cadets, like I said, I was really good friends with Chris. I happened to get wind that he wasn't going to march RCC again because of whatever reason. I forget what it was. And I was like, yo, dude.
Weekday rehearsals or something?
Yeah, RCC used to rehearse on weekdays or something like that. And he's like, I can't make it happen from Bakersfield. I was like, well, hear me out. I heard no one's going back to Pulse again. I'm the only guy. Apparently I don't know. Apparently I smell or something. So I was like, dude, no one's going back to Pulse. Like, you can carpool with me. Like, let's do this. So I convinced Chris to join Pulse. So it was Chris, myself, and we ended up getting 2 other super talented tenor players. One who marched Academy and another one who marched Mandarins at the time. So that was Juan and Nick. So we had a phenomenal quad line in 2013 at Pulse, the Renegade show. And that was, I think that was a year where the membership, we just got along. So everything clicked from a membership standpoint. And it was a really awesome experience because we drummed well, especially the quad line. We threw everything we could.
You guys were finals clean by the West Coast regional.
There's some really good live videos of early season. It's like, yeah, this quad line's good. So yeah, man. So 2013 Pulse was a great experience. A lot of great friends there again, including my close friend Chris in the quad line standing right next to me. So I was like, dude, we marched BDB together and now we're here at Pulse. Like, this is exciting. So yeah, we had a great winter with them. And yeah, and then Chris is kind of the story that leads to my 13 summer.
Wait, hold on. Before you get into the 13 summer, while George isn't here, he actually reached out to a couple people.
Oh yeah,
that and try to get a couple questions for you. So hold on, let me get this first one.
Yeah, give me. Let me see who you got. Sweet. Who'd you dig up in my past?
Okay, so the first one we'll do one at a time. So the second one we'll do later on in the evening. But the first one he spoke with Fred Hahn. I guess he was a pulse tenor tech and the section leader your rookie season. And Fred said to ask Efren about the time you guys went to Utah for a gig. And do you know where this is going already?
Okay, go on.
And you guys ended up at a frat party where where Efren pretended he didn't know English and just spoke Spanish.
Yeah.
What's the story with that?
Okay, so
I didn't know this.
so Pulse used to do, I mean, they still do. They used to do some corporate gigs and stuff here and there. And we had these gigs lined up with some corporate company that was doing some conventions around the country. There was one in LA, one in Utah, and one in Vegas. So a few of us got hired to do that. And it was all on snare drums. It was just some basic like drum to drum drumming, just your classic, play fast and make it flashy. And we went to Utah, and it happened to be around Halloween. It wasn't on Halloween, but it happened to be sometime around Halloween time. And so there was like a group of about 10 or 12 of us, Pulse members, Pulse alum, including Fred, that we got hired and we went to Utah for like a week. And coincidentally enough, we're staying pretty close to the University of Utah, one of the big college there. And Mo, who was also on the gig, he happened to march with two guys who went to school there. So we were just bored in the hotel. Eventually, he kind of hits up the people he knows, and we're like, cool, apparently there's a party like not too far from here. We can just cab it up and go over and kind of hang out. And we didn't really know what we're getting ourselves into. We just knew that Mo knew a couple people, but we thought it was going to be just like a hang, chill hang. And
it's a whole bachanga.
Yeah, it was a whole festivity in this frat house. And it was a costume party, and all of us are like, oh, we didn't prepare for any of this. But we happened to be myself, Mo, and another good friend of ours, Isaac, who are all Hispanic folks that speak Spanish. We all happen to be wearing like flannels or some sort of button up. So we're like, dude, all right, this is what we do. So we buttoned them all up except for the bottom. And then we're like, let's just go in and don't break character. Just speak Spanish. And just tell them like, you got an invite. And that, so we're there. We're like, ¿Cómo están? Dame una cerveza. And we're all just talking to them in Spanish. And everyone's like, where?
So hold on. So you dressed up Cholo style, but you spoke Spanish?
Yeah. In the middle of Utah, which is the most stereotypical thing to do.
Oh man, that's like something out of a movie called Born in East LA with Chief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had a little bit of fun doing that. Granted, it didn't last very long. I think the hosts were like, "Who are you guys?" And they're like, "So like you guys need to leave or whatever." And it's like, we know this guy. He invited us. And he's like, "Okay," and then we carried on.
That's cool. Well, yeah, at least they didn't kick you guys out right away, and they were cool with it. Yeah, so it all ended well. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a funny story. That was a good one. Thanks, Fred, for bringing that one up.
All right, so now we're through 2013.
Yeah. So going into 2013 was actually my age out summer. Like I've said multiple times, I was really good friends with Chris. I happened to just be marching with him, and he happened to be the only vet going back to BD. So he's like, dude, now's your time. Let's do this. Like, make it. And I was like, all right. So, and I was very upfront with my previous staff at the Cadets and all my friends there. I was like, I'm going to audition at BD. It's my last chance. I marched the B Corps for 3 years. Like, I started my drum corps career in the Blue Devils organization. So it just makes sense. Let me get a shot. Long story short, didn't work out. So for whatever reason, didn't make it. That was a bummer. And then all the cadet spots, they were already running and gunning by December. They already had a line set. So those were small talks of trying to get me in there and like all that stuff. But at the end of the day, they already had their thing going. I didn't want to mess with that. I didn't make the corps that I committed to. So it is what it is. And I did end up marching my age out summer. I ended up going on my first family vacation in like 8 years or something.
Do you have any regrets for not marching?
Yeah, of course, man. There's a lot. I mean, my experience at Cadets was nothing but positive. There was a lot of great things that came from that. That quad line was awesome to be with. They're all great friends to this day. And Yeah, I mean, and the next year they were phenomenal. Like they won drums. The corps was even better. It was just like I should have just gone back. But in hindsight, you know, everything happens for a reason. Maybe they would have lost drums if I would have stayed. Who knows?
No, I doubt that, but you know, I get it because I didn't march my age out as well, and sometimes I have a lot of regret about not doing that. But it all worked out in the end, and I'm sure for you, it's all worked out. You know.
Yeah, actually, funny enough, that summer is where I met my significant other. So we've been in a long-term relationship since then. So I guess there's some
silver linings.
Yeah, there's silver linings in there.
It was meant to be to go that way. You can reach the route that you're at now.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't march my age out. Took a summer off. Went on a family vacation. Watched some drum corps from afar. I went to a couple shows. It was cool. It is what it is. So yeah.
So around this time, how old was Daniel? What, about 13?
So I was 13.
You were like in middle school.
I was in middle school. Like I had literally played quads for like one parade, maybe playing like eighth notes for like parade or something. Yeah, so that's about it.
So it's funny enough, we can actually rewind and tie Daniel into all this. So my whole experience marching drum corps and indoor, like I'd always have friends in and out of the house. We'd always be drumming, do all that stuff. And Daniel and I shared a room till I moved out. So like
I was just always around that. And like I grew up playing soccer, being the little Mexican boy I was my dream to be a soccer player. And like that was my gig, but like every weekend my mom would be like, hey, Mo's gonna sleep in your bed again. You need to sleep on the floor. Oh, okay. So I'd wake up to these smelly guys. They're like ramming licks in my room. It's 9 a.m.
Yeah.
So naturally I was just around drumming. Like Mo would be over, Chris Drummer would be over, Richard Ramo, like all just these like really good drummers were over. They'd be like, oh, this is a paradiddle. Oh, this is a cheese 5. And I would just be like in my room, like
trying to keep up.
Chickadee, like, oh, cool. Like I didn't think much of it at the time. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm doing this because.
Yeah.
So instead of playing for the Chivas, you decided to go into to drumming. You caught the bug, yeah.
He went to Los Tigres, the RCC.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. So like as I was kind of growing up through all this scene, he was kind of growing up through just picking up sticks, teaching him paradiddles, right, left, right.
And like yeah, I was doing the whole like elementary school concert band thing, and I was like in a band as in middle school, but it was never.
I was gonna say I'm sure Efren didn't think of it much, but I'm sure everybody that was there at your guys' pad was like getting a kick out of watching you try to drum little things, as you're growing up. Yeah.
Like I remember talking to Mo like after once I was already marching, and he was like, dude, I had no idea you would have ever quit soccer. Like I thought,
yeah,
like he's like, I would have never expected you to like latch onto this as much as you did. So yeah, it's just kind of funny how that happens.
Yeah. So Daniel was kind of growing up through all that scene. We went to a couple shows.
Yeah, like when I was like, I'm pretty sure I watched some of your VDB shows, but I'm too young to remember. It's like apparently I watched Phantom Regiment 08.
Yeah. You guys went to Stanford.
It's somewhere in my memory. I don't really remember, but it's there.
It was one of the few shows my parents went to was Stanford 2008.
Yeah.
And Phantom was there. And looking back, I'm like, dude, you saw Phantom 2008.
He probably was playing with Thomas the Tank or something back then,
Yeah, he was playing with his Game Boy or something.
on the back of the bleachers, like playing with my toys.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so go ahead. I was about to say, so let's pick this back up. So you didn't march your age out, but here you go and you march RCC for 2 seasons, correct?
Yeah, so similar story. I knew Chris wanted to age out at RCC. He had a great time at Pulse, but his niche has always been the Blue Devils RCC thing. And he's like, hey, I want to age out at RCC. Like, I know it didn't work out at Blue Devils, but do you want to maybe audition at RCC? And I was like, I mean, why not? I guess. Why not? Let's do this. So I learned everything. I went, I kind of had a little bit of a reputation now because I was a section leader at Pulse. Like the staff at RCC knew of me at least. I've already met some of them at the Blue Devils audition. So it wasn't a hard audition in regards to like no one knew who I was. Like I already had some stuff going for me. And so I show up to RCC and a lot of people surprised and ended up making it. So I marched RCC in 2014. So This Is Earth was the name of the show. We had TVs and all that stuff. Very interesting show. Very hard to pull off. We did okay. We got fourth, I think. I forgot what we got, which was low for RCC. So that was like, I think, a fire in a lot of people's butts, under a lot of people's asses for the following year. But yeah, so RCC 14 was my first year at RCC, and it was awesome. It was a nice change of pace. Like, I've already been hopping around all these other drum corps, so like I moved around in WGI scene, I guess. So it was a somewhat simple transition for me, at least, like knowing how to adapt. Like, that's one thing I knew how to be, was just be adaptable, just because just who my experience was. So yeah, so I was there in 2014, and at that point I was already aged out of drum corps, so I didn't have any drum corps commitments. And this ties into my teaching involvement, but in 2014 was the initiation of Golden Empire. So I was like, oh, if someone's starting a drum corps in my town, I would love to teach it. And I knew some of the people that were at the head of it, and I was like, hey, like, how can I get involved, and blah blah blah. And yeah, so I taught Golden Empire to the summer of 14. That was our first year of existence. And then in the winter of 15, my age out, I had the bonus year. So a lot of people don't get this, but my birthday was on April 8th, and the cutoff is on April 1st. So I was actually one of the oldest people in Dayton, I think, performing. I just turned 23 on semifinals day or something. I was everyone called me grandpa on the drum line. I was the old guy. It was funny. So yeah, I going into RCC 15, there was a little hesitation. I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of getting a little old. I'm already teaching. But you know what? I wasn't able to tie a nice bow and finish my drum corps career. Like, I should be able to put a good ending statement to my WGI career.
Well, that was definitely a good show to age out on right there. Yeah. That show's a great show, yeah.
Going into RCC 15, like, talent was just really good, and we had a lot of great talent show up. Audition, that was the hardest audition of my life, was my last year of RCC. Man, oh man, that was the most stressful weekend for all the right reasons. Like, we were pushed to be phenomenal and meet the RCC standard. That audition was tough.
Quad piece was way too hard.
Yeah, the quad audition piece was rough. Like, we were.
Who was the quad? Was Miguel the quad tech then, or no?
No, actually, that was Jeremy Sommers was around still, and then that was actually Nick Arcee's first year teaching there, and also Chris. So Chris just aged out and started teaching, and so that was an interesting dynamic to have him as a good friend that I grew up marching with as my tech. But he's super smart. It makes sense.
No. When you went to RCC from Pulse, was it hard to learn that cool little leg pump that during the warm up? Is that they teach you that, or is that something you just pick up on your own?
You kind of just do it. No one really talks about it.
It's just the unspoken.
It takes a couple tries to not look like a doofus doing it.
Yeah. You know, and it's cool because, you know, I know that's like that's like a Blue Devils thing, right? That leg.
It's
the
just
leg
more chill, yeah.
Chill, yeah. Where, you know, our era, I'd laugh because we're so regimented. Stand with your feet together, you drum, wearing the drums, and it went from that to like, it went from that to like leg spread, and then now the pump, and yeah.
Funny enough is so I marched RCC for 2 years, and my last drum corps experience was at the Cadets. So I still had a lot of like cadet in me. So I was always first to reset. I would naturally stand with my toes together, like a cadet, and sometimes I would do it mockingly, and it's kind of become a meme. You'll probably see pictures around of other people doing it.
Hashtag peep the toes.
Yeah. So like whenever the box would be talking, I'd like stand there with my toes together. You know, everyone's like chilling, just kind of like watching, like listening to Sean, like taking in the information. Absolutely. But I'm like set. I would do it kind of like as a like, yo, I'm more disciplined than you kind of thing. But also it was kind of funny because I was just a fish out of water kind of thing.
Oh yeah, but it's cool, man. I mean, you got to do that whole experience. You aged out, and you guys won on your age out year. You know, that's a good way to go out.
Yeah, so talking about 2015, like I said, the audition was tough, and that ended up being, I think, good because we got all the best talent, so that made it, and kind of set the standard of like, yo, the season's gonna be, we're gonna push it, And it's funny because I think 2015 area is when we were getting away from like the straight marching all the time into like a little more choreography and like staging and all that stuff. And like, I mean, those groups are already doing floor work and doing some crazy stuff. They're upside down, throwing stuff, whatever. But like, I feel like RCC 15, I feel like was the beginning of really good staging and understanding when to march really fast and crank and when to be on the ground with your drums in between your legs, spinning around and doing stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. Like me as someone trying to connect the dots from when I marched to today's era, and going back and looking at some of the videos of through the years, and just to see the progression of the activity through all those years to where it is now. And that's definitely one of the shows where the choreo and the body movement and everything really sells that show as far as the performance level. You know, you guys really performed the heck out of that show, and you could tell just even on video, but I can't imagine in person how effective it was. Actually, I take that back. I can't imagine, because I did go to the WGI regional that was here that year, you know, at the Cal State San Bernardino. Yeah. And what's funny, you know, I wanted to ask, like, wow, they you know, they won that regional. And then somebody said, yeah, SEPA championships is in a couple weeks. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
because I didn't know there was like two separate things, you know. But yeah, it was definitely a very cool experience to get to see that live from the stands.
Yeah, I wish I would have seen it live. Like, to this day, I'll stumble across videos here and there, and I'll watch it, and I'm like, I forget that I was even in it. I just watch it. I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, how was I? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I'm one of those people. It's a great show. The message of the show is really awesome. It has lots of depth and a lot of like value to it. What Sean and the rest of the team over at RCC put together was perfect. Jeff's kisses.
Masterpiece.
Yeah.
So during this time, is Daniel at?
Yeah, so this is where things start to overlap.
So it's actually almost perfectly.
Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, so we'll actually back up about a year. So I started high school in 2014. So that was my introduction to like marching band. Like, okay, now you're on this is a dot card. Learn your drill. You're doing a band show now. So like my going into my freshman year, I made the quad line. You know, of course, having people like Efren to teach me stuff. You know, I knew how to play quads going into my high school year. I didn't have to learn from scratch. Like he would teach me licks at home. I knew how to move around the drums fairly okay for a 13, 14-year-old. So like I did my first season of high school band in 2014. This was right after Golden Empire's inaugural year. So like since Efren was teaching there, like I would go watch like a lot, you know, or I'd go watch Golden Empire rehearse a little bit.
You ran the Met for us once.
I did run it. I stood in the back in the tracking block just because I was there. And
I was like, Daniel, just hit the button. Like, just hit the button when I tell you.
So like I was getting my actual introduction into the activity and actually appreciating it. Whereas, you know, when I was a kid, I was just like, oh, they're drums. Okay, and I forget about it. Like, I think 2013 Pulse Renegade was the first time where I actually went to a show and like appreciated what I was watching.
Like understood.
Like, okay, this is cool. And then I went to watch GE. And then so after my freshman year of high school was Efren's age at RCC. So that year, that was like my transition to like, okay, I'm sold. I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I went to every single RCC show that year. I was at every show. I was at Placentia. I was at
all the big ones.
All the big ones. There was even a weekend where Efren just took me.
Yeah, I just took him.
It was a regional weekend. He was like, just carpool with me and Naomi and Henry and everyone. And I literally just like went to their Friday night rehearsal, housed with the members, went to their Saturday rehearsal, went to the show with them, went to their Sunday rehearsal. I just kind of like was just a little groupie with RCC just because I just enjoyed watching it and being around it.
So yeah, the timing kind of worked out perfectly because my very last year was Daniel
right at my beginning
was literally his freshman year of band, so he started understanding a little more like the
and coincidentally that same year, after only doing one season of fall band, Efren was like, here's a packet, audition for Golden Empire. Like, learn this packet, you're gonna go into auditions. And sure enough, after only doing one season of high school band at a okay high school, I made Golden Empire in the quad line. And that upcoming summer, right after Efren's age out, was my rookie year of drum corps. I was 14 years old.
So that's 2015, correct?
Yeah, I was 14 years old. I think I weighed like 120 pounds. My quads weighed like 40.
Yeah, pretty sure the quads are taller than him too.
I was super small, and it was fun. That was my introduction to the activity, and like I immediately went from looking up to what he was doing to now I'm in it. I was like, oh
yeah.
And yeah, of course, there's another level. I still had like the world class groups that I still was
Dude, but you're like 14. you still have time, yeah.
He was doing the open class thing, which was you were still gone from. You were traveling for weekends.
Yeah,
you're gone for days on
there. Like it's the thing that a typical freshman in high school doesn't do. Like they're still trying to figure out how to
mark time.
Like not even like just like a typical person, like non-band related. Like people don't really do. Maybe they do a sport or something. And they understand what it's like to do something to this extent, but it was fun for me to jump into that that way. And not only that, but have my brother and Mo, who I was already really close with because he slept in my bed the majority of my childhood, teaching me how to play drums.
Yeah. So Mo and I were the snare and quad techs at Golden Empire because we're both Bakersfield natives. We both happen to have similar marching careers. We marched at Pulse together. We marched cadets together. So I was like, dude, let's run this drumline together kind of thing.
See, and that's what's cool about the open class is you can go there and you can learn and you can just go and have a good time. And I don't know, I mean, you could be competitive. And a lot of people don't realize a lot of those open class groups, it's the competitiveness is there as well as the instruction is there. And those lines are great to watch too, there's not enough credit for them because you'll even see on like social media, you'll see people, there's not enough opportunities in drum corps, this and that, and I'm like, what about the open class? There's corps everywhere that people can go marching, go learn if you're a beginner, you go to open class, and I'm sure they would take you in there and put you on something just so you could learn.
Yeah, just to piggyback, that's one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize. Like a lot of the younger kids who want to get into the activity think, I want to go to Bluecoats right away. And it's like, realistically, a lot of the people who are there now didn't start there. They started at 7th Regiment, or, people in the West Coast, they started at the Cadet Corps, or myself at Golden Empire. It's like, it's not always shooting for the big groups. And a lot of the experiences that help you be successful in those groups, you get in the open class.
Yeah. And I'll maybe argue this a little bit, but even in open class, I do find like there's more of an emphasis on the educational, on the teaching side of it. Not that world-class groups aren't doing that, but they already have the talent. They're just trying to be phenomenal. And I think one of the challenges when it comes to open class is not only one, having a really high standard still, but also like bringing everyone along with you, because I feel like the range of talent is a little bigger. You do have your shredders or maybe they're first, second, third year in the corps, and they have no problem doing the open class thing. They're kicking butt.
They could be in a world class group, but they're kicking butt in open class.
There's a lot of reasons to do open class. It's a less time commitment, a little more affordable, all that jazz. But yeah, so like when it comes to teaching, it can be a little more of a challenge just because of the range of caliber you have. But it's also more rewarding knowing that like you got this whole bunch of students, of members that are all committed to this, and we all pushed, no matter where you came from, no matter if you came from that really good high school, or this is your first time on the cymbal line, or like you just wanted to be in the drum corps and we gave you a trumpet and you got taught by the brass staff. Like there's a lot of scenarios where it's like a great entry level thing that can still pump out great quality,
And as an instructor, you go to open class corps, it seems like you go there and you can really hone your teaching chops as far as learning patience and getting in there to work with like the younger members to get them going into that right direction if their goal is to make world class.
Yeah, I think one of the cool things about teaching open class, not only teaching how to play your horn, play your drums, spin your flags, all that, not just that, but also like teaching culture and making sure that you're teaching a culture that one is going to lead to their success, but also kind of move the activity forward, So I know, speaking for Golden Empire staff, like we're all making sure that we're moving in the right direction, teaching the members all the right ways of doing drum corps and what it means to be, a part of our drum corps, you know. And I feel like a lot of those members do end up going off like Daniel and having an advantage to marching other corps because they know the do's and don'ts, you know, because we really strive on trying to make sure.
But
like,
you had to learn the do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
The hard way.
Like, yeah, even as simple as like, when is a good time to shower? Like, do I pack my drums first or do I do this? Like, okay, I got to teach you guys the most efficient way to do this so that you can be a high functioning drum corps member, no matter what instrument you're playing.
And that even carries on into the regular life away from drum corps. Like a lot of the lessons I learned during drum corps has helped me in the career that I have now.
Absolutely. Yeah, lots of discipline for sure.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. How to work as a team, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So Daniel, you do Golden Empire for how many years?
Do for 2 years. So I marched my rookie year in 15, and then in 2016 was a section leader of the quad line there. And another great year. I had a great, awesome first year, and I was still really young. I already for sure had aspirations to like prepare myself for the bigger stuff, but it was in my best interest to stay for another year. I was still 15 at the time. I think, although I unofficially I did send a kind of an audition to the cadets when I was 15. It wasn't like an official audition, but I sent like the packet stuff to Alex Beltran, who was a quad tech. It was actually his section leader.
Good friend of mine. He was my section leader.
So,
he was teaching. I was like, dude, my brother got some cadet videos. Can I send them your way?
And it was kind of, you know, he gave me some feedback, and it was all good. It was kind of just like, yeah, you know, you got some talent. I could see you, you know, fighting your way into a spot, but you know, it's like financially, like I'm 15. I don't really work.
Yeah, you're 15 years old.
So it was kind of just like, oh, you know, we'll try next year. No, don't worry. Like I wasn't too bummed about it. So I went back 2016. I was section leader there, and it was a great learning experience for me too, even at that young age, to start getting into the leadership role to prepare myself for future years.
The corps was big, growing too.
Yeah, the corps got a little bigger. We had a bigger quad line, bigger drum line for sure. And just kind of refining everything that I learned in my first year. That, you know, it was my first go around that time. It's just kind of just growing pains, and 2016 was my time to make it better.
So, Daniel, around your second year, is that when the Bakersfield College drumline started, or when did that start?
Yeah, so the indoor drumline had already started a couple years prior. I think they went to Dayton in 14.
Yeah.
So they'd been around, just, you know, doing okay in the competitive scene. But with the beginning of Golden Empire there was like the first time where they were able to bridge the gap in terms of like staff and membership. So with the success of the drum corps also came a little bit of a boost in the indoor scene. So Efren and Mo began teaching there together. And so actually I forgot to mention that, but between my 2 years at Golden Empire, I also started my first year of WGI, which is my sophomore year of high school. I was doing my high school drum line and BC drum line. So, and
so you were a busy kid.
I was just that busy kid, doing the whole thing. I think whenever we had local shows, whenever there was shows where I'd perform at my high school, and then BC would be like the main event, I guess, at that show, I would like perform with my high school, run out the gym, straight to my trailer, dump my drum, and then go and load with BC and then do it all over again.
I get that back in, you know, and I keep bringing up my era.
No, I love it. I love hearing
the winter scene. Like, I want to say 95, I was in 3 world independent lines, but it was different. You just stood still and played. So, you know, I was in 2 lines for sure, because I was in a line called Scope, which was the South Coast Percussion Ensemble, and then I taught the VKB line, but they needed another person, so I was like a teacher player. And then Long Beach City College, our bass tech for VK was in that line, but he couldn't make a lot of the gigs, so I knew all the charts, so I would jump in. So I would go from one line, just walk off, walk right back on, play the next book, walk off, right back on, play. So I was in like three groups, yeah. So I get that part about having to do the change and perform again.
So actually, to rewind a little bit about Bakersfield College indoor drumline came around thanks to Dave Ellis and Tim Heasley. They started doing WGI shows, I believe, in 2009. They went to just Temecula, like local shows, not really competitive. There were, I think, and maybe they can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it was a lot of more like a political move. Like they just wanted to start getting into the scene so that they can eventually do it at a high level, which was wise. And so yeah, Bakersfield College was around for 2009, and then their first year going to Dayton was 2013. So pretty quick turnaround. They started in 2009. We're making the big trip in 13 and going fairly consistently since then. And then, it was like not like the first year they went out, I don't think they made finals. And then the next year they barely made finals, and like it was like a mix of success through those years. But like Daniel said, with the initiation of Golden Empire in 2014, both those programs are actually just classes at Bakersfield College, and they're all ran by the same director, Tim Heasley. And a lot of the staff was either exactly the same or there was a little bit of turnaround here and there. But so there was a really good energy brewing between those two programs, which essentially was just one program, But yeah, so then Daniel was in 2016.
Yeah, a lot of the members that I marched my rookie year at Golden Empire ended up just bleeding into BC. Like those seasons almost just felt the same. It's like, okay, now we're in the gym with some velvet clothes.
Yeah,
dude, and that's cool. I mean, it keeps the continuality of everybody drumming together, and it just helps to solidify the program. And everybody, you would think the community, the high schools would see you guys drum, and as you guys get good because you're drumming so much together, it want to make them try to be part of that.
We definitely got a cool little brew kind of brewing up here, but takes some nurturing for sure. But yeah, so that was so Daniel's
my first year. So first year of GE 15, I made it my first year of WGI 16. Then I did GE again in 16, like I mentioned, and then went back. Now was after being section leader in 16, was also again section leader at Bakersfield College. So now I'm like getting the best of both indoor and outdoor scenes.
Just down the street from your house too.
Yeah, it literally a 10-minute drive. Now, looking back in hindsight, I take it for granted because driving 3 hours to RCC is not anywhere near 10 minutes to Bakersfield College.
But, you can like go home for lunch.
Yeah, I can go home for lunch. But anyway, so after my second year of Golden Empire, I knew it was my time to spread my wings and start dabbling into the world class scene. And funny enough, this is a very funny thing that happened this specific year. So of course, growing up being taught by Efren and Mo, the two cadets, and Mo ended up marching 13 and won the drum title. Like the Golden Empire vibe was, we were kind of just like the mini cadet drum line. That's what we felt like inside.
You're hyping that whole, the East Coast. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're playing over here.
We're playing super crazy. Like honestly, like from a technicality standpoint, we're drumming very similarly. Our approach and everything was very similar to how they were taught at the cadets. So naturally, I wanted to go to the cadets. I wanted to march in the cadets drumline. It's what I looked up to. 2015 cadets, Power of 10 was like, I watched that YouTube video so much. I probably know the book just from watching the video so much. So this was my time. I'm like, okay, I want to go audition at the cadets now. And this was shortly after the summer had ended. And I knew I was going to be auditioning there that year. And I remember waking up one morning. And I get a text from him, and it just said, Colin McNutt is leaving the cadets. And I remember I cried. I cried that morning. I literally,
because you wanted to be a cadet.
I wanted to be. Yeah, it was.
And his interpretation of the cadets was the Colin McNutt days.
Yeah.
Like
I looked up to it, and not only that, but I had built it up for 2 years, like knowing I want to do this, and building up my career to eventually get to it. So when that happened, I was like torn. I was like, man.
No, I get that, and I like once again, I hate bringing up my time, but I grew up. The first core I ever heard on cassette was '83 Blue Devils, and then I was on the Tom Float Blue Devil drumline. That's what I wanted to be, Tom Float in a Tom Float Blue Devil drumline. And then, my junior year in high school was 90, and that line for me is like one of my all-time favorite lines. And so, 90 happens, and then he leaves in 91. It's like, oh, I'm never going to be in a Tom Float Blue Devil drumline. Well, little did I know in 92 when I started marching at the Velvet Knights, guess who the drum instructor is? Tom Float. So, I gotta do that part. So, no, I get the part, you being sad when hearing that Colin McNutt left the Cadets, because I went through the same thing. Yeah.
It was a dilemma for sure, and there was like this weird, it's that weird time between the ending of drum corps and like audition season where it's just kind of a weird time, and I was torn. I was like, well, now do I go to the Cadets and just continue going to the corps where my brother marched, or do I follow to the Boston Crusaders, which at the time it was, they were doing well. It just wasn't a group that I had really had in mind. They were just kind of.
Yeah, no one was really talking too much about him yet.
Yeah, and ultimately, I remember speaking with Efren, and just like he said earlier, he told me, he's like, I think the part of the Cadets that you fell in love may have been like all of the stories I tell you, the drumline, the videos you watch, is really more Colin McNutt. And not to any disrespect to the Cadets organization, they're great, but it is true. Just for me personally, what I fell in love with was that Colin McNutt philosophy. So after that, Efren bought me a plane ticket to Boston, Massachusetts, where I went and auditioned. And I met Alex Beltran for the first time, which was also, I really looked up to him. He was my brother's section leader. I watched all the 13, 12 YouTube videos. I was like, oh, he's the dude. Like, oh my God.
Center quad.
And it was great. And they were very welcoming. Obviously knowing being the little brother of this guy, they knew who I was coming in. And with technology advancing, we actually had a Facebook group set up where it was like an audition group. And we didn't really have assignments during the audition season, but it was like, here's the material, post videos for feedback. And man, it got so competitive that I was like, if you weren't posting at least 5 videos every day, you're not keeping up. So it was like, it was just a constant grind. And at the same time, Adam Sanchez, who was the center snare at Golden Empire, and Andres Garza,
who was the bass section leader.
The bass section leader at Golden Empire, and actually filled a spot at Cadets. So he had already marched under Colin. We were like, we were the little Bakersfield trio. And I guess I should mention the year that I went to Boston was also the year that Mo stopped teaching at Golden Empire and was the snare tech at Boston. So I'm also kind of being followed by the same staff that I've been taught by all this time. So I went to auditions, and funny enough, I was actually, looking back, I probably should have flown to Texas because that's where all the talent was. That's where the majority of the drumline was. But I flew to Boston just thinking like, oh, the course from Boston, I should go there. It was a super small turnout. There was like 3 quads, a couple snares, no basses. And I met Colin for the first time. It was a interesting experience. Colin is an awesome man. I love him. I think he like offered me coffee like in the middle of my individual, and I was like, okay, thank you.
So this is summer going into the 2017
into 2017 season. Yeah. So I was actually still 16 years old. This is still 2016. So I was 16 auditioning for Boston. Had a great little talk with Colin. He asked me about how my experiences were. Oh, funny enough, I don't really mention this a lot, but I actually auditioned for RCC prior to this.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll backtrack a little bit.
As a 16-year-old?
I was 16, yeah.
Wow.
All right, so yeah, so I was at auditions at Boston in 2016, the fall of 2016. I had my individual with Colin. It was great. I think I played like 2 things. He like had me play like a flam drag or something, and then he was like, all right, and corrected me, told me my flams were bad, and then gave me a spot. And it was great. It was more of a conversation. I think he knew like who I was, and he didn't really need to see much of the playing. He was kind of just like interested in my involvement to the organization. And he asked me at the time, he's like, how many years do you have left to march? And I was like, 5.
Oh, he probably loved that because then he gets to have you for all 5 of those years. Yeah.
Yeah. And from then on, he really just took me under his wing and helped me develop, to who I am today, and helped me grow that summer and the next summer and the following, and to really all the way to where we are now.
Yeah. Well, he wasn't too shabby of a quad player himself back in his.
Not at all. He'll still got it to this day. Even with the butts of the sticks, he'll ram some stuff out.
Yeah, he was in one of the quad lines I consider probably to be the 92 Vanguard, man.
You should see him going to town on the cowbell.
Oh yeah,
that'll keep you in time.
that'll light a fire under your butt. But yeah, I kind of mentioned it, so we can backtrack. That same fall, like a month prior, I auditioned at RCC.
Kind of just as an experience.
Kind of,
yeah. Still in high school.
The reason I